All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Jeff Pollard at solarpowerthepeople.org and Jeff Pollard 11 on Instagram. I'm with Clara Rose uh, and Roza. My apologies. And thank you for coming. She loves permaculture, and we're going to be talking about that, but more. We're going to get more in depth with focusing more a little bit on her jungle room, and then a lot on mushrooms. And I'm really excited because I know nothing about mushrooms, and so I'm excited to hear it. We're talking from the cold winters of Australia right now, while I'm in the hot heat of California's summer.
The base cold, I should say, is 12 degrees. I'm free. Yeah.
So that's why she's bundled up. Thank you for coming, Clara. Clara. And yeah, please, let's get into, tell me a little bit about you. Tell me a lot about mushrooms and tell me everything you want to tell the world.
I'm a huge fan of permaculture. So it's not my day job. My day job is I'm a medical scientist. I have a 9 to 5 where I go there and help people with breathing disorders. But my passion, my hobby is permaculture, which I suggest if you do not know what that word means, please look it up. You'll find so many great resources online. But basically, if I want to really summarize it, it's permanent culture. So it's steering away from the strip mining, the massive fields of monocrops, and just coming back to natural systems and whole ecosystems thinking. So that's my main passion. And the mushrooms kind of stemmed from that. That's just kind of a bit of a side gig, if you will. And my love of plants has really just been something I've had since I was a child. My grandfather from Eastern Europe had a little farm in Hungary, and I've always had a passion for farming and plants ever since then, even though I'm kind of a city girl now.
Yes. Well, to make it clear for everybody, I'm forcing you to talk about mushrooms because I just got too excited about that. So I appreciate the focus on that discussion.
That's right. I love them as well. They are amazing.
But yes, so I guess like what I want to get into is before we get into the mushrooms, is there anything you would like to talk about with your jungle room? I know you mentioned briefly before this some pets and animals in your world. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I have a theory that I guess people were just taken out of jungles, and I've just been trying to climb my way back in ever since. Pretty much I surround myself with plants whenever I can, so all over my house. I've got a project coming up, which is going to be exciting, where I'm actually going to be adding a passive solar greenhouse to the side of my house and moving my bathroom into it.
Whoa.
And yeah, so that's going to be really exciting. It's going to be at least a year away, but I'm excited about that. I'm in a warm, temperate climate here. So if I want to have things from like the Amazon and stuff like that, like if I want to have vanilla orchids and chocolate and all those great things, I got to keep them inside. I got to miss them. I got to work out how to do all of that. So that's what a lot of my plants inside are focused on. And I'm expanding when I can get my indoor room going. That's going to be amazing. And inside I've got my little quails. That's something from my grandmother. She always had quails, and she always thought that quail eggs would make you live forever. She didn't live forever, but she made it a very long time on those quail eggs without having lived a hard life. So I've got my quails, and then my bunnies, who, as well as being super adorable, are excellent sources of fertilizer, interestingly, for my garden and my plants. Yeah, rabbit fertilizer you can just put straight on the garden. So it's not like chicken manure or horse manure or anything like that. You don't have to age it. You don't have to compost it. You just pop it straight on, and it's excellent.
Oh, wow. I thank you for that tidbit. I grew up with rabbits, and my family, we didn't do the composting thing. I had to get into it later, but that's actually great to know that what rabbits eat and then what they take out is you can put it straight into your pile. Oh, I did not know that. All right.
Yeah, you just give them some sawdust or some straw as their bedding, and then pretty much done. There's your fertilizer. There's your little factory.
Okay. And I want to make it clear that we'll have all of Clara's handles and stuff like that in the comments box or the bio box and post it everywhere. I'll post those things. So you can definitely find her. And let's get into mushrooms. I guess my first question for you is when somebody's starting off, see, I was actually having this question. You're not planting a seed. How do you get it? Like where does it start from to plant, to work with mushrooms, to grow your own mushrooms?
You know, mushrooms are, I guess you could think of it as a fruit. They're the fruit of a larger body, which is a fungi. Now, fungi is, I think Incubus had an album, Fungus Among Us. It's basically everywhere. But some people have some pretty interesting theories if you want to kind of go down that rabbit hole of how fungus is a little bit unique. So fungi have their own, I guess you could say, branch of the tree of life. So they're a eukaryotic organism, which means they have a nucleus, just like people, just like plants, but they've got their own little branch. They're quite unique. They are more closely related to humans than plants are, which is quite interesting. But basically, the fungus has the parts that we eat and the parts that I tend to grow. They've got a mycelium. So they've got this big underground network of, when you look at it, it'll look like white trails throughout everything, like the roots of a tree, but massive. And in places like in your Oregon old growth forest, those are some of the largest organisms in the world. And it's actually the fungi mycelium that's underneath the ground there. And it has these networks almost like human neurons where they communicate with each other. And some of them even form relationships with these old ancient trees. And that's how you get things like truffles. So yeah, Paul Stamets is the guy to look up if you want to learn more about the amazing world of fungi.
One more time?
Sorry?
Can you say his name one more time? Sorry.
Paul Stamets. So Stamets, yeah, if you Google Stamets and mushrooms, Stamets, you will find amazing resources. Okay. But the parts that we eat, the little mushrooms that pop up, they grow as a bit like a fruit, and they'll grow in ideal conditions. And what you need is a little bit of that mycelium, or the spawn, as some people like to call it, and that's what you'll start off with. However, if you don't have access to that, like you don't have a good local provider, you can actually grow it using just the stem butts of an existing mushroom, and it will replicate. So I've tried that a few times to see if it works, and it does work. So if you know someone with, say, a fresh oyster mushroom, and you can get your hands on a stem butt, you've got your seed, as you would say. But it is always cool to find a local spawn supplier, because they'll get you ready-made, ready to go little bits of grain spawn, and then you can pick what type you want, and you can mix and match and things like that.
Okay, a stem bud. Okay. Yeah. And then what kind of pottery / care do you have to give these?
So you've got your main substrate, which the mycelium is going to eat and grow in. And that can be anything that's sort of like cellulose, carbon-based. So my favorite thing to use is recycled paper pellets. Part of the reason I like those is because they are like heat treated. So you know that we use them for like cat litter, which sounds really funny, but it's been heat treated, it's been cleaned, so you know that it's good, and it's quite easy to use. It's really absorbent. And all those are just recycled bits of paper and cardboard. Another thing you can use is just straw. So like old straw. If you soak it, pasteurize it, or heat treat it to get rid of all the competing microorganisms. You can use old corn cobs. That's another popular one. And one that I first heard about when I got into all of this was coffee grinds. So your cafe are throwing out heaps of coffee grinds almost every day, buckets full, when they're making your coffee. And you can actually use that as a substrate. So there's no need to use anything that's expensive or fancy. In fact, the aim is to use something recycled.
Okay, but we're talking about right now, that's like the growing, that's like the fertilizer, like the planting part of it, right? Is that what
Like
we're?
your soil, if you wanted
Yeah.
to use it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of pot do you put it in?
I've got some behind me. Let me see. This is my preferred method. I like to use buckets because I'm trying to save space. So the idea of the bucket is I can stack them one on top of the other in my kitchen, and that just makes my life easy. But you can use anything. So you can use an old yogurt tub, you can use a plastic bag, you can use an old tin. You just have to be able to put breathing holes in it.
How big are the breathing holes?
I like to do 1 to 2 centimeters in circumference. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But you can, it's up to you.
Okay. I'm just curious. I mean, I'm sure it depends on like the mushroom too, but I was just wondering like what it, the diameter it needs to kind of grow out of and stuff. But all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we won't discuss what kind of mushrooms to get, even though I do want to get into like that one day. Because I was saying like I like watching these survival shows. So it always interests me to know like which ones you can eat and stuff. How long does it take to grow? Like when can you see the fruits of your labor?
About 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah. Yep. And then after that, you'll get a couple more quick flushes, we call them. So you'll get a few harvests. And then it's up to you. Then you can either refresh your bucket or you can just leave it. And it'll keep giving you the occasional mushroom like once a year for a while, but it won't be the same as when it's a fresh bucket, and you can get a significant amount off that bucket.
Okay. So you can get a significant amount, but then if you want toward the end or when you get your large batch, save a little bit to regrow. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you can do that, or you can choose to go on to a different type and get some fresh spawn. So for me, we've got a bit of a varied climate. Like I said, we're temperate. So in winter, some types will grow, and in summer, other types will grow. When we get to the heat of the Australian summer, when we're getting those 35 degrees days, not many mushrooms like that. So you want to keep them indoors. I don't know of too many that'll handle above 30 degrees, but basically when you're below 30 degrees, you'll have different temperature ranges for different mushrooms. So if you're somewhere really cold, like if you're in like Iceland, then you can grow things like enoki. So enoki mushrooms like it really cool. Okay. But if you're somewhere pretty warm, like if you're in California or Australia, you want oysters. You want oyster mushrooms. They're your friends.
Okay. So it does take a little bit of homework to find out which mushroom handles what climate.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. Terrific. And then real quick for everyone who doesn't quite get it, she was talking in Celsius. So
sorry.
No worries. Yeah, terrific. Okay. So you mentioned like a soil base. Does it need watering?
So you soak it in water initially, and then after that, you really shouldn't be opening your bucket or your container, because every time you open it, you're actually breathing other fungi onto your little friends, and that can compete with them. Most of the time, if you've got a good base, it's not a problem. But when it starts to get really warm and humid, you will get a little bit of mold competition. So you don't want to be opening your bucket, but what you can do is mist it from the outside if you think it's drying out. But usually your initial soaking of the substrate will keep it going.
Okay. So mushrooms actually like a little morning dew then, huh?
Yeah, so I spritz mine twice a day.
Okay. So we talked about how to get started, where to get it, how to take care of it, the temperatures involved, and then just eat it. Is there, I guess I kind of want to conclude with like, is there a dish you recommend? Like, what do you like to have with it?
I'm unique in the fact that my family's from Hungary, but I'm a vegetarian. Okay. I think there's like 5 of us in the country, probably. So I like to make mushroom stroganoff, and also like I'm trying to think of the English word, but it's a little bit like fried chicken, but it's just kind of, instead of the chicken, I use the mushroom. So it'll be like battered and either high heat cooked or fried. Yeah, so like a mushroom schnitzel, pretty much.
Okay.
So that way I can kind of join in with the rest of the family and their foods, but it's secretly vegetarian.
Okay. Okay. Now I want to try something with you. Is there an ask? You're talking to an audience right now. What is something that would significantly help you? This is all about helping the world, helping one another. These videos are about helping somebody, getting them interested in something. Like, what is a helping ask that you would have, if any?
Look, I'm a scientist, and you're probably hearing a lot more from scientists the last 2 years than you ever did before. And I think a lot of us, if you asked us, what do we want? We want you to get educated. We want you to read and to learn. So there's so many amazing resources out there. So if there's anything I could ask anyone watching to do, is have a look at permaculture, Google permaculture, look at the books of Stamets, read about these things, educate yourself. Some people found themselves with a bit of extra time this year, and the silver lining of all of that is that you can learn for the rest of your life with all the information that's out there right now. And
exactly. No, I love that.
Yeah.
And I just want to, reiterate to people, like, the whole point of this kind of permaculture thing is just so that you could survive on your own. We don't need any one particular thing. Obviously, a community is nice.
Yeah, it's not about self-survival. It's about living well within a community and an ecosystem. So
it's a cohesive collaboration. I guess what I was trying to say with that is we don't want to keep on taking. It's a good way to give back and create a well-balanced world.
You want to leave any spot of land better than when you came. And that's really easy to do if you look into permaculture and the teachings there.
I like that. All right. Well, thank you, Clara Roza, for coming. You can find everything about her in the information box and everything I'll put in. And we'll put in all those little tidbits. Thank you so much for having this chat with us. I hope everyone got a good take on what to do with mushrooms and stuff like that. Thank you.
No worries.
All right. Take care.